Hello, and welcome to an honest walkthrough and review of the El Mariachi Band by Liberwave. This is a Mexican sample library, and I'm a Westerner, so I apologise in advance for the demos of the instruments. They'll be played more in the Western style, so not in the style this library is intended for, in all honesty. Not to say that it won't work for Western music, but just so that you don't get irritated throughout that I'm not playing in a Mexican style. I've warned you. Now, with this library, you're getting violins, trumpets, guitars, a guitarron, which I think I pronounced incorrectly, a harp, and an accordion. You're also getting MIDI strumming patterns, which is really handy for people like me, Westerners, who don't perform in this style, so you can at least use those to get more out of your guitars. You're also getting mini masterclass videos from the people he sampled, so you can understand this style of music even better. Now, let's skip into Rhapsody, which is the dedicated plugin made by Liberwave, and actually start looking at what you get. So firstly, we're going to go up here. You'll notice everything's in Spanish, but to translate, that's your accordion. You've got your harp here, 3 different guitars, 2 different trumpets, and then 2 of them put together. And then you're getting 3 different violins and then 2 violins together as well. We'll start from the very top with our accordion. You've got 3 mic positions there, 2 articulations, and you'll notice a couple different things going on down here at the bottom. Firstly, we've got bass notes over here. Next, in this green section here, you'll notice if you play 1 or 2 notes or try to play anything, it won't do anything. That's because this triggers samples of chords. So if you play 3 notes at once, instead of playing the 3 individual notes, it plays a sample of that chord. Gives you a much more authentic sound. Of course, this red here is our key switches going between these 2 different articulations. And then, of course, you have your actual instrument itself. Up here at the top, you just have some sound effects from the actual instrument itself. Now, listening to these mic positions individually, let's first listen to our close, and we'll center pan it. Nice dry sound that of course works with your chords as well. Moving on to our next mic position. Bit on the quiet side, but I wouldn't use these solo. I would mix them together as was initially done. And there's your room mic. There is no built-in reverb, so if you want more space, you're going to have to add that externally. But they do have a built-in vibrato. Which is artificial, but very usable in all honesty. And I do love this accordion sound. Don't think I've found an accordion quite like this or quite deeply sampled. Now, our next articulation within this instrument. It is quite a beautiful instrument. I would add a little bit of stereoization as well, although I must admit that panning was quite nice on that. Anyway, that is the accordion. Honestly, I quite enjoy this instrument, and I think it will definitely be quite useful for other stuff than just Mexican music. But moving on to our harp, this is my favorite instrument in the collection. It has such a beautiful sound to it. The only thing I kind of wish with this library is I wish you could almost purchase the instruments individually with inside it. Full price is £399. It's currently on sale for £249. But the ability, I feel, almost like orchestral tools, to buy individual instruments within it, I feel would be really handy, because if somebody just likes the harp or just like the guitars, I think that'd be a really cool thing to apply. Because this harp, in all honesty, is absolutely gorgeous, and I'm probably going to use it over the BBC Symphony Orchestra harp that I have, just because it has such a raw and authentic sound to it. I love the pluckiness of it, especially at that high velocity. Now again, we'll have a quick flick through our mic positions, and for that we'll look at the fingernail articulation as well. That's our close. Looking at our mid. A little bit on the quiet sound. You can up the volume up a bit more. Does give you a bit more sense of the room. And then last but not least, we have our room mic. Again, you'd have to add an external reverb if you wanted to push it further, but you do get a close sound. I would almost want a little bit more difference between the three mic positions, but then again, the close is close, and the room, you definitely get a sense of the space it was recorded in. Right, moving swiftly on to our next instrument, we're looking at the guitars. Now, here it gets a little bit more complicated. Firstly, we have more articulations, and next we have this amazing fingerboard aspect of this library. What this essentially does, so if I play a chord up here, you can see where it's played on the fingerboard. Now I'll play the exact same notes, but we'll move it down the fret. Same notes, slightly different sound. Which is such a cool principle, because depending what sort of sound you want, you can change where you play it and get almost a completely different sound. I really, really like that aspect of this instrument. But super, super cool, very clever. And you quite literally get the same note sounding different. Anyway, three mic positions again there. Got some open strings there. Now the yellow down here plays a strummed version of whatever chord you're playing with your right hand. The bottom one plays a lower version of it, while the top one obviously plays a higher, and then you have more of a picked or muted version up here. Whack or whack, bit of Pac-Man there. The trick with this, as you can kind of see, I've changed it to the muted patch, because with the sustains it rings out a bit too much, especially if you just want that strumming sound, so I normally put it on the mutes for that. Now this is where those MIDI strumming patterns come in really handy. As you can see here, I've loaded 4 different ones already. Up here you can see the chords triggered. You can obviously change that, and you can see I've put them on at a low velocity. We've selected in here our mutes, and then if we just hit play on this, you can see how those can be really helpful and already give you a more authentic style. And they're very easy to work with. You just change the chord at the top there and it'll play that pattern. So I really do like that strumming feature, and it is quite handy. Now, moving back over to our instrument, let's check out some of these different articulations. I quite like the stereo feel of this as well. And of course you've got vibrato control as well. I really like the stereo field of this instrument as well. Of course you've got those 3 mic positions that we've looked throughout. You can control a bit more of the velocity over there as well. But let's move on to our next guitar. With this one you've got 3 different articulations, sustains, octaves and harmonics. This is more of a bassier instrument. Beautiful sound. You have it in octaves as well. And then some beautiful harmonics. But all in all, it's one of my more favourite instruments as well, and definitely one I feel myself moving towards, especially for a lower end instrument. In combination with maybe like a cello or a double bass. Right, last but not least, we have this beautiful instrument. A lot going on here, but let me walk you through everything. Firstly, you've got your open strings down here. Next, you have that same strumming pattern you saw earlier here. Next, you have your effects to add a bit more of authentic sound, make it sound a bit more real, and some more percussive sounds there as well. And then of course up top you have your key switches over here, moving between your different articulations. Similar, we have the fingerboard up here, so you can make the same note sound completely different. Again, a feature I absolutely love with this library, and your similar 3 mic positions there. Of course, you have that simulated vibrato there as well. Moving on to our trumpets. The adaptive mode goes between the sustains and staccatos and gives you some almost convincing legatos as well. Quite convincing, actually. That's not bad. It really plays the fast passages very well. Sustains. You can see that I'm controlling the vibrato amount. If we move over to our dynamic fader as well and actually turn that one off, turn that off as well. That works really nicely, actually. I'm just going to add a little bit of vibrato. Yeah, quite like that. Staccatos. That's going to really cut through the top end of your mix. I'm wondering, is there any effect? There's flutter. Quite nice if you use them lightly. On the extreme, they do feel a bit artificial, but they will add a bit of texture to your sound as well. And the last are duets. Which will be very effective when you use it in combination with other articulations with your key switches. But there you have it. That's a bit of an overview. The mic position is very similar to what you've heard before. Not as spacious as I would like with the room, but you do get a sense of the space, which is nice. And with the reverb, it can be quite effective while you're close. Is very close and in your face, so very easy to mix in and out with a bit of reverb, but you do get a nice bit of space with the room. It is a room, not a hall. We'll quickly flash through our second trumpet, but you'll notice a very similar sound. I'm not as convinced by the staccatos, but I really do like the adaptive mode. Here's the duets. So I wish the staccatos had that sound the duets have, just that initial. They're not as harsh. And I feel we're missing our mids with those a little bit. That's my honest opinion. You do have two trumpets together, which can give you a really nice sound. And the staccatos and staccatissимos are a lot more pleasing. And you do have a beautiful stereo field as well with this one. Although it's kind of the opposite of the solo ones. I find the adaptive less usable. The staccatos and staccatissimo a lot more usable. Right, so that is that. You do have the flutter and the growl, and obviously your envelope as well. There's vibrato control, but you get the gist of the sound that you're getting here. Definitely getting a lot more warmth with that close mic. Now, last but not least, we have our violins. Lots of content here to get through. We've got quite a few different articulations. The rebow is really nice, but starting with our adaptive. Nice bit of resin on that. Not as convincing as other libraries I've gone through, but nevertheless quite a unique sound. What's nice is you do have vibrato, although it is an artificial one. That's your raw sound, and then if we next we have our rebow. Which for those longer passages sounds a lot more natural and just adds a little bit more realism to it. Just to compare, here's your different mic positions. We'll just skip to the staccato for a second. Which I do really like that articulation, very well recorded. And really good sense of space as well, especially when you mix a little bit of close. You can push it a bit back without having to add reverb, which is nice. And then our middle mic position is slap bang in the middle. Right, next articulation, let's move back to our tremolos. Have a really organic sound to them, and they're very easy to use. Staccattissimos. Very, very usable, and definitely something I'll be mixing in with other string libraries I have. Pizzicato. Plucky and beautifully recorded. I cannot fault the shorts of the violins. And when you use the ricochets in combination with your staccatos and your longs, adds another sense of realism. Again, beautifully recorded. Has a really nice resonance as well, nice release on it. Of course, you can control that over here if you need to. Moving on to our second violin. Again, very similar setup, just slightly different sounding, which I guess is the important thing. Moving on to our third violin, again a slightly different sound but the exact same setup as before. I think the third violin is probably my least favourite of the three, but nevertheless works well with the others and does give you a nice variety there. Now you do have the violins and duo, so two violins played together. With that you do have a nice range, the full range of articulations you get with the other violins. Thicker texture, a better stereo field. I kind of like the little artifacts you get in that one. And there you have it. That is the El Mariachi Band. The trumpets are probably my least favourite out of all of them, or saying that the duo makes up for it. The violins, I love the shorts. They have a beautiful tonal quality to them. The harp is my favourite by far. The accordion is unique. I've not quite come across anything quite like it. And the guitars give you this beautiful sound of Mexico that I feel a lot of people are looking for. But overall, what a beautiful library. Of course, it is not perfect, but for what it lacks in perfection, it makes up for in character. It has this beautiful, unique sound, and I feel if you really dive into it and work with this library, you can get a beautiful and unique sound that you cannot really find anywhere else. David, the founder of Librawave, has done an amazing job on this, and he's spent quite literally years in the making, and so I do have a little soft spot for him, as you might have noticed. But nevertheless, I feel this library, yes, is on a little bit on the expensive side, I do feel, in my personal opinion, when I compare it to other libraries. But then again, you can't quite find this anywhere else. But certainly an investment, and certainly something you need to invest your time in to get the most out of it. But overall, I'm excited to see what Librawave come out with next. This is a beautiful library, and I look forward to composing with it. I might have to do a video just with me creating a piece using it. But I've hoped you've enjoyed this honest walkthrough and review. What do you think of this library? Is this something you're going to be purchasing? And if you have purchased this, please leave a link to the track that you've composed with it in the description. I'd love to hear the music that you compose with this library. But thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.